morning, everyone. Welcome to the morning show. So happy to have you with us this morning. We're coming to you on WJOP-LP Newburyport at FM 96.3 on Channel 9 and on Newburyport Community Media's YouTube channel at ncmhub.org. I'm your host, Mary Jacobsen, and I am so excited this morning to welcome my two guests who are here to talk about the upcoming world premiere of new musical, Il Bastardo da Vinci. We have the lyricist and one of the performers with us this morning. So let me introduce you to Camille Garro and Mike Coppinger. Camille moved to Newburyport 10 years ago with no experience in theater and writing, but she was immediately bitten by the bug to get involved in classes with both the Firehouse and the Actors Studio and the Weekend Writers Workshop. And that Weekend Writers Workshop, she tells me, is really where she developed all her writing for plays that are currently have produced throughout the area, including most recently the Custom House Playwright Festival. She's been on the show numerous times in the past to discuss her contributions to organizing our annual Women's History Month events. However, she informs me that last week she stepped down from the Actors Studio board, so she won't be running those anymore. But she's concentrating, we're happy to find out, on the Weekend Writers Workshop and developing her playwriting, and she's very excited about that, and so am I. So welcome, Camille. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for again having me on.
Oh, I'm thrilled to do so. And let me introduce you now to Mike Coppinger. He has an interesting story, too. He and his wife, Sue, have been residents of Newburyport for 36 years. I guess it was a good fit, Mike.
It was so far so good.
And when he retired in 2010, he tells me that his wife, Sue, happily suggested that he take an evening class offered at the high school in voiceovers. So he took the class, but the voiceover gig, it turns out, didn't work out. But in the way of such things, the silver lining was that it got him in touch with a group called the Seabrook Old Time Radio Group, and people there suggested that he audition for a play. The rest is history. He did audition, and he fell in love with performing theater, and it's been a major part of his life ever since. Mike, thank you so much for taking time to come visit the morning show. So happy to have you here. Well, Camille, I was hoping we could start with you because you wrote the book and lyrics for Il Bastardo da Vinci, and how did you get the idea? I think I want to write a musical. Had you ever done anything like this before?
Yes, and 4 years ago, you actually interviewed me to premiere Treason at the Firehouse. And it was part of the development, as I mentioned, with my playwriting that I had just been exposed to at that time. I was only here for 6 years. But I realized some of the things I write are 10-minute shorts, they're called, and then maybe 2 acts or whatever. But for some reason, that spoke to me that would. I love musicals. I grew up in a house that played musicals all the time. My dad used to play them all the time and sing. So that was. I thought every house did that. So of course, musicals. So when I hear things, I do hear them in terms of could this be music? So that spoke to me as being in music. When I wrote this, and I was writing the first scenes, exposing them to the different workshops that I did, they were advising me, just write it, then decide if it's a musical. But I knew it was a musical. I said, no, this is a musical. I am going to write it as a musical. And I was inspired by being in Italy at the museums. They have pop-up exhibits of Da Vinci quite a bit. And this one was in Sicily, actually. And we saw the inventions and the incredible display of everything he did. And Dennis, my partner, husband, mentioned, he said, take a look at this. Leonardo was an illegitimate child, and that just got me rolling. Like, did the mother know him? What about the mother? Did the mother know of him? Did she was only 13. She? So immediately it just triggered all kinds of interest. That not so much about Da Vinci per se, but the combination that a 13-year-old had to give up a child. Did she get to know who he was? Was it a difficult choice for her?
Yeah.
What transpired? And it got me researching and doing all that.
So musicals are in your family DNA, so it was not a stretch for you to start translating something you became interested in to the format of a musical. So that's a really interesting story all by itself. And then traveling in Italy and seeing some exhibits about Da Vinci's
Several. One in Rome and one in Sicily. So, yeah.
Right. So that got you engaged with the story. And I will admit to you that until you told me the title of your musical, I didn't know Da Vinci was illegitimate or how it factored into his life story. So we'll talk a little bit more about that story itself in a minute. But I also want to ask you, because this play, this musical, was good to go 4 years ago, pre-pandemic. And so it was postponed, of course, as so many things were because of the pandemic. So I have to ask you both, actually, because I know, Mike, you were going to be in the original version several years ago. What does it feel like to finally be saying, we're having the world premiere this month?
It's surreal for me and for
A relief.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah, absolutely.
It's coming together finally.
At last.
Yeah.
we keep getting scares of one of the cast people getting COVID. Until a few weeks ago, every week somebody. So rehearsals have been a constant challenge.
Yeah.
Scheduling, trying to get the whole cast. They're phenomenal, though. I have to say, I'm seeing little snippets of it, and it's just the talent is phenomenal, and their
Wonderful.
Diligence, and they're just they've just been so loyal to this. That in itself is inspiring.
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. Well, just fingers, toes, everything crossed that everybody stays healthy because it's so close. Yeah. So that's so exciting. Well, I did want to learn a little bit more about the setting for the story and the events in Leonardo's life, and in particular, I know part of your focus is on his mother, and a 13-year-old. This just sounds like really challenging time. So, tell us a little bit more about the plot.
I was particularly inspired by realizing that this took place in the 15th century.
Yeah.
Now, when I discovered all this, it was pre-pandemic, so it was almost prophetic that when I was reading about it, a lot of this took place during many, many Black plagues.
Wow.
So that was the setting of a lot of scare, similar to what we have just gone through.
Yeah.
But at that point, when I was researching, I was saying, oh my goodness, all these pandemics. It was also wizardry and witches, and so through my research, I found out the mother, who was 13 when she gave birth, when she gave birth, when she conceived, and was the daughter of an alchemist. And so that's fact. And when I read that, I went, oh, this is great fodder for me, because that would mean, what was that considered then? Probably that he was a wizard. I don't know. There's a plethora of information on Da Vinci. His journals are still very abundant and clear access to them. But his mother, there's all kinds of theories. And so it gave me liberty, gave me artistic freedom to take the truth and stretch it, minimize it, whatever. And so the thing that I embellished was that if she was the daughter of an alchemist, then she may have got that DNA, that blood. Yeah. And maybe that's where Leonardo got his.
Interesting.
So I wanted to know,
interesting, Camille.
Whose DNA did he get? Where did he inherit this from? Yeah. And I did find out that his father was a notary, which was like a lawyer, and an accountant. It was a high level.
So there was some aristocracy.
Absolutely, and that's what prevented them from getting married. She was a peasant girl, and he was aristocracy, considered that, and because of that, they could not marry.
Interesting.
The church wouldn't allow it, so the church was big, their influence was big, the government wouldn't allow it, so they parted ways. So I made it into this romance, and the story is really mostly about the mother. The whole first act is developing the mother as a little girl, and then there is an ephemeral character that we call Spirit, that is the deceased mother telling the story. So this whole story is told through the mother, dead, and then growing up, and then the second act is developing Leonardo.
Okay. Oh, that's so intriguing. I can't wait. Well, thank you for that. It just I'm excited. Well, Mike, you're a performer in the show, and I believe you played 2 characters.
Right.
So tell us about the characters that you play.
Well, the main character that I play is Father Alfonso.
Okay.
And so therefore I represent the church. which is kind of a difficult position for an individual to be in, because he has to follow the teachings of the church.
Yeah.
And at the same time he has his own conscience that plays into it as well.
So inner conflict.
Right. So he starts out as a legitimate priest, and when the subject of witches and Steiger comes up, he comes down very hard on Leonardo's father. But then when he actually sees the woman and he sees the family, he feels for the pain they're going through with birth and death and all of that. And it's an interesting character to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like it
So
would
all
be.
kinds of emotion, humor, pain, loss.
And we found out just like about a month ago that he really knows how to speak Latin. So he was throwing out all these Latin lines. To our surprise, it was great.
Yeah.
Well, you never know when things are going to come in handy in life.
No. I was brought up as a Roman Catholic and went to Catholic schools, high school. So
Yeah.
I was an altar boy.
Okay.
So that's where that comes
that
from.
Latin
Yeah.
is inscribed in your
Right.
in your
It
brain.
worked. It worked. We didn't even know that.
And how about the other character?
The other
you
character
played?
is Verrocchio, and that's
Okay.
Leonardo's teacher.
All right.
He's a newly apprenticed to Verrocchio, but Verrocchio sees the talent, and so he he appreciates having Leonardo around.
Okay. Well, I'll bet.
But he also knows that Leonardo is on a different level than he is.
Well, okay.
So
over the centuries, Leonardo is going to make him look good and be remembered.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, so that just sounds like those are, especially Father Alfonso, sounds like a challenging character to play.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I'm
with a
looking
lot of
forward to
depth.
getting it on stage.
Yeah, finally, at last, it's going to happen soon.
Yeah.
Well, for either or both of you, I'm curious to find out something about the music in the show and what style is it. And I know you know all styles of Broadway, Camille, from growing up with it, but is it Sondheimish, Rodgers and Hammersteinish, Leonard Bernsteinish? Tell us a little bit about the style of the
And
music.
I do want to hear your interpretation of it too. But my composer is a very dear friend that I've had when I had my interior design business. He was my upholsterer that did custom
Oh, no
work.
kidding.
So this was from like 40 years ago, pretty much, or thereabouts. And we've remained very close, because I've had my business for like 35 years. So, so we developed just a very good friendship as well as business. And I knew his love was music, so he always said, I'd love to compose something someday. I had no idea I was going to do that, and we chatted about all that. So 4 years ago, when I decided to do Treason, well, that was decided probably 6 years ago when I started writing that one. I talked to him, and he said, yes, let me do it. So now we're the second musical into this, and anytime, he is just so well versed. He's an incredible composer, even though that's not what he does for a living.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a natural at it, and he's brilliant. He's truly brilliant. And I will say to him, think Les Mis for this scene. I'll write out. I did all the lyrics for me. It's not the rule, but they came first. I would write the story, write the lyrics along with it.
Okay.
Because I like the lyrics to explain the scene, and then the scene to enhance the music.
Sure.
And so for each scene, we both decided we would like a mix of the kinds of music. So one of them is kind of rock and roll kind of thing. I said, think of Jesus Christ Superstar.
Okay.
Think of Music Man when they're on the train, for certain ones. We think of Damn Yankees with
oh gosh, sure,
all that Lola wants, Lola gets. So certain scenes will evoke, was the inspiration for him. And it doesn't, I don't know if that's going to evoke that with the audience, but it will get that mood. But the goal was to be a cross mix of different music.
Interesting.
So
it's the best of Broadway.
Yes. I really didn't want anyone thinking, because this one actually starts out with kind of more opera feeling.
Oh, interesting.
Then it goes into all these other moods.
Interesting.
So I really wanted that. So, that some people might think, that's just not the way it's typically done. We didn't want a typical musical.
Right, yeah. And your composer's name?
Oh, Dan Connors.
Dan
How
Connors,
could I
that's
not say
right.
that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yes.
And Mike, you have anything you want to add about because you're one of the people singing, right?
Well, I do. I get to do a couple of songs actually.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, but the music runs the whole gamut, as she was saying, from rock to opera, actually.
Yeah.
But we have some fantastic singers as well.
Great.
Oh, yes.
I mean, the lead singers in this are really top notch.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
That's what I've really been impressed
Yes.
with.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, it was really fun to sit back and just listen.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like it's going to hit all different kinds of moods.
And we developed a song for Mike. and at that time, I didn't know who was going to sing it, but when I met Mike through the radio shows that I found him, I knew he would be the great character for this because the song is somewhat irreverent. Would you agree?
I would agree with that. And it's one of the main reasons I liked the song.
Yes, I knew he would really step it up, and boy, did he ever. It's a showstopper. It's great.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, that's great. Well, tell us a little bit about the choreography. I don't know if I'll pronounce her name, but Erin Staffiere, is that?
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about the dance numbers. Because knowing you and how much you love tap dancing, I knew there would have to be dance numbers.
Right. But we didn't want to make it too much with dance. So that was the trick. And we asked Erin if that was going to suit her, because Erin works with Fontaine, who does the dance.
At the dance place.
Yes. And she choreographs many of their dances. And she's fabulous, and I would say she's more of a modern movement type of dancer. Beautiful, but she's not a tap dancer.
Yeah.
So we wanted movement, and I knew with her the challenge could be having movement with people that typically don't do dancing or movement, and it's not that easy a task. So she did choreograph, but most of her things, because there's a lot of mob scenes. Several mob scenes and crowd scenes.
Okay.
We didn't want them to look like a herd of cows up there, so they had to move and sync and be fluid and not distracting. And she really had her challenges cut out for her.
It sounds like it.
I would love to get Mike's input, because I don't go to them all, but I've seen all the rehearsals. But I've seen the beginning when it was, oh boy, it was like one of those Hallmark shows that I don't know if anybody's seen, that they would do a dance thing and no one knew how to dance. And then at the end of the show, yes.
You mean in the sense of, let's all go down to the barn and put on a show. With Mickey Rooney.
Exactly. And so I'm like, oh boy, she's got her work cut out for her. And, but then I've seen the progress, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it really is. And then I just saw somebody sent some videos last night to me, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. So what
it's come along really well. It's these mob scenes are sort of like frozen in place and then move and then frozen in place.
Okay.
And even with the young people involved, they're getting into it as well. With the faces and the anger.
Yes.
And so it's really worked out well.
No,
and that's
nothing complicated, but force.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge because you want it, I can hear it, for it to flow smoothly but not seem robotic.
Right.
Exactly.
But
And
look
not
more
distract,
natural, the way
and
it.
not-
But
and not
but then you've got
distract.
the music as well,
Right,
which helps
right.
bring out all that movement. And
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
been working out real
Yes.
So
well. Yeah.
it's a challenge then, I can hear that, but it sounds like it's that Erin has brought her chops to the
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great. I'm just thinking too, as you describe, it must be so much fun for you to get videos of the,
Yes.
at night and
yes.
see how
One
it's coming
of the
along.
dedicated, devoted mothers of our little Katerina is the mother, and then the same character, little Katerina, turns into little Leonardo, and the next thing they kept the same character.
Oh, intriguing.
So that mother has come to every single rehearsal. So she has documented a lot of this, and so
I'll
she'll send them
bet.
out, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is great.
Oh, what fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I have to ask you, because Anna Smulowitz is directing this show, and she's a legend. So what's been like to work with Anna Smulowitz as director?
Well, I went right from one musical to the next.
Wow,
And so
right.
there was pretty much, while Treason was ready to go on stage, I was writing this, telling her about it and all this. So the pandemic did interrupt things because she wasn't sure she would, of course none of us knew what was going to
Yeah.
happen with that.
Yeah.
So she didn't want, we couldn't, I tried to keep rehearsals going so we
Yeah.
could meet at Dan's, but, carefully. But Anna didn't want to be exposed to anything,
Of
or,
course.
we couldn't officially be calling these, this had to be on our own thing.
Yeah.
So a good portion of this was done through Dan and I just herding everybody over to his studio, just keeping it going.
Yeah.
Just keeping that on their screen and in their mind, singing it in the shower, and just going the whole time. And then she, of course, then joined in again and decided, yes, okay, this pandemic is going to go away, hopefully. And yeah, so we would talk endlessly about the development, again, how we would look at the script over and over again, meet, revise it, edit it, revise it. Her words, her famous words are, this is an ongoing, constant change, right?
Those are her words.
And it will continue changing. I had to write the Verrocchio character, which I loved doing, but maybe 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was there at that rehearsal.
Yeah.
We had another character, a middle-aged Leonardo. He grows through the second act. And we said, we need more for him. We need him. He was standing in front of Verrocchio's shop, and Anna said, can you develop more words for him?
That's
Leonardo?"
interesting.
When I went to rewrite it, just a little bit, I said, this needs the Verrocchio character. And so this was
Interesting.
just really less than a month ago that we said, yeah, they would be more enhanced if it had actually the character coming on. And I said, we've got to have Mike do this because it's a separate enough thing that we can have him change clothing and be that character. And it was just an automatic thing. Yes, we have to have Mike be Verrocchio.
And that was the fun part about it, was I get to create a completely different character.
Yeah.
I try to change my voice. With
Right.
Verrocchio, I use an Italian accent.
Yes.
Of course.
Of course, see. But yeah. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, so that was my
Yeah.
interaction with Anna, as development, changing, adding, deleting, and I'd love to hear how it is for
an
the
actor.
actors. Yes, because I never interviewed them. How's it been?
No, it's been great. It's been great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to September 23rd.
Yep. September. It's coming.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Everybody stay healthy.
Yeah.
Well, what you were describing is really interesting, Camille, because it sounds like kind of live action editing, that the rehearsal itself like and Anna gives you feedback as you go along. The rehearsal itself enables you to get a perspective on, yeah, this is working just right, but here we need more dialogue for this character, which you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell until you start to act it out with real actors and singers and people moving about on stage, and that's where you can tell where there might be a gap or some additional motivation explained. And so it's great that that you live locally.
Yes.
So they can just call up the lyricist and the playwright and say, hey, Camille, we need a little more dialogue for Leonardo.
Yes.
So, and how exciting for you then to be able to say, okay, I'll be over. And then to see what it needs and be able to respond and sort of, that's the art of it, I guess, the active artistry in the moment to make sure that it's fine-tuned to what's really going to get across the characters' lives and their message. So that sounds like a lot of fun and very creative.
It is, and that's why the fact that we had the pandemic in between, a lot of people, even though we kept it alive, Dan and I, just tried to keep it, we really couldn't practice anything.
Yeah.
We really couldn't rehearse because we're not directors, and so we couldn't block them. We couldn't do any of that critical stuff. So even though we had all these years to prepare, they really couldn't do their thing until rehearsals really got kicking, and that doesn't typically happen until like 3 months before for a very, very new production, and actually longer than that. For a well-known production, they usually do 6 weeks. Yeah. But we actually, I would say, a good amount started 6 months before, even though they all kind of knew they knew it, but it really couldn't come down to the nitty-gritty of making changes, really observing, and to this moment we're changing. I've stepped out of the rehearsals at this point because now I've seen all the scenes. We're thinking anything that needed to be rewritten. So about 3 weeks ago I said, okay, I think we've gone through all the scenes. I think we can make all the changes we need to, with modifications, of course.
Right. It's so exciting. Well, curious to find out from you, from both of you, what feelings do you hope and expect the audience will leave the theater with at the end of the show? Thoughts or feelings, or just what kind of impact are you hoping? You come out of Il Bastardo da Vinci, and this is what we hope you're going to feel, and this is what we hope you're going to think about.
I really want people to observe it on a multi-level experience, because most of my research for this was actually done with researching loss and what it takes to lose, to give up, to make choices. Because this was about a mother giving up a child, possibly, making that decision, what should I do? So it was really speaking, and it's meant to be that people don't know this is Leonardo da Vinci for the whole play until the very, very end. Of course, spoiler alert, but we have our posters that are now, we realized we should let them be aware of what this is about, but because originally I had named this bloodline, I named it everything that wasn't Da Vinci, because I really wanted that reveal at the end, which it is. But I figured because people will be talking about this, that the word's going to get out anyway.
Absolutely.
So the research for this was how to deal with loss, letting go, love. And it really wasn't meant to be, she had this terrible choice because he was brilliant. It had nothing to do with that. It was a mother. What should she do for the better future of her child? And that's where choices come in. So I just I'm hoping that people will leave saying, wow, I didn't know that about Leonardo da Vinci.
They will certainly leave with that.
Yes, but with these, it makes you wonder how children are influenced, the nurture versus nature.
Sure.
And there's a lot of that. Can you learn to love because he, if he's taken in by step parents, and all of that, developing love. So to me, it's a love story.
Interesting.
You know, so.
I can hear that in what you say. What does it mean to love your child when there are certain choices forced upon you by circumstances?
Yes.
So that sounds very, very intriguing and very engaging. How about you, Mike? Any thoughts on that?
Well, my first thought from going through this whole experience is how this happens 500, 600 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's not really that different.
Yeah.
The things operating in society can affect all of us the same way that it did back then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the part that struck me the most.
Yeah.
Was
As
that.
I mentioned, the prophetic part was that we came into a pandemic in the
Right.
midst of this.
Right.
And the motivation of the story was surviving the Black Plagues.
Yeah.
You know, and so our finale song is about that, and it is totally fitting with what we have all been through with this pandemic.
Gosh.
So it's really just...
And the crowds in the street were a reminder of a lot of things happening now as well.
Oh, interesting. So
Absolutely.
the human experience, timeless.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like you hit a lot of chords that will reverberate for people.
I think so.
Across time, space, and history. So, well, I'm glad I have my tickets. And it seems appropriate to end on this question for anybody who is interested in learning more about the show and getting tickets for it. Where should they go?
Well, they can go to firehouse.org and obviously go to the box office at the Firehouse. They can also, the link is also on the Actors Studio, so that would be newburyportacting.org.
Yeah, because it was a I should have added
yes,
that. It's a
yes.
collaborative venture between Actors Studio and the
Yes,
Firehouse
that's
Center.
right.
So either website will get you to where you need to go to get information about the show, and if you'd like to buy tickets, to also get information about how you can do that or show up at the Firehouse itself.
Yes, and
is what you're saying. So.
there's 8 performances, and there's, out of that, 4 matinees,
Yeah.
so it will encourage all age groups
Right.
and, to come. And,
Right,
yeah.
from September 23rd to October 2nd. So, well, I can't thank you enough. It's been so much fun to talk to you
Thank you.
about this. It's so exciting to have a world premiere in our own Newburyport, and it just sounds spectacular.
Well, thank you.
honestly.
Thank you.
So
Thank
I so
you.
appreciate your taking the time to visit the morning show
excited
and
to.
talk about it. I know, after
We are.
4 years, finally.
Yeah.
So it's been lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much, and thank everybody for listening or watching the morning show this morning. Tune in again next week, everybody. Bye now.